This video is based on a Freedom of Information request that Jeff Buys Cars put in. I shared my Freedom of Information request with Jeff, and we both agreed that a couple of things needed clarifying and trying to pin the DVLA down so they didn't give you an evasive answer. I want to be very clear at the start of this video. I'm not accusing anyone of fraud. I'm not saying the DVLA is making numbers up. What I am saying is this. When you force a market to hit targets it cannot naturally meet, the data starts to behave strangely. And I've got this DVLA Freedom of Information response that shows exactly that. And it confirms what I've thought all along. What the ZEV mandate requires. Under the ZEV mandate, manufacturers must hit a rising percentage of zero emission registrations or use flexibilities, including hybrids, low emission ICE cars and credits, or face heavy financial penalties, £12,000 per car short they are of the target. That means success is judged by one thing: registrations. Not usage, registrations. Not real world owners driving them, registrations. And that distinction matters. This Freedom of Information request covers vehicles declared SORN within their first 6 years of life. That's basically because EVs aren't technically that old. And it's broken down by fuel type with the average age at which they were taken off the road. I didn't ask for this information, Jeff asked for it. He's asked for it in a cleverer way than I would have done, which isn't surprising because Jeff is cleverer than me. However, I've been a long time in the motor trade, and again, the way me and Jeff interpret the same information is completely different. These are my thoughts. This information is crucial. These are not old cars. These are new or nearly new vehicles. The first red flag is the volume explosion. Let's start with the raw numbers. Young vehicles being SORNed. Pure EVs up nearly 20-fold since 2018. Hybrids up over 6-fold. Petrol and diesel relatively stable by comparison. But this is happening at the same time that manufacturers are supposedly smashing the ZEV targets, if you listen to people like the Climate Intelligence Unit. That's the first contradiction. The second red flag, age collapse. Now we look at when these vehicles are being taken off the road. By 2024, the average EV being SORNed was just over 4 years old. And hybrids weren't far behind. Petrol cars being SORNed were typically 15 plus years old. So these are not end-of-life vehicles. The EVs have been removed early from use. The petrol are end-of-life vehicles, obviously, but the EVs aren't. SORN doesn't mean scrapped. Scrapped is a different box to be ticked. That's it, scrapped, gone. These could come back and be used again. It means they're not taxed. They're not insured. They can't be used on the road. So the right question is, why would a manufacturer or dealer need to register a vehicle but then it doesn't go into use or it's not kept in use? Pre-registration explains some of this behaviour. And here's where the pieces start to fit. To hit the ZEV mandate targets, cars must be registered. Not necessarily sold to an end user, registered. Not necessarily driven, registered. not necessarily retained on the road, registered. So what happens? Vehicles are pre-registered. Targets are met on paper, not by sales. The EV has no real retail demand, and it's quietly SORNed. The registration counts, the mandate box is ticked, but the car effectively disappears. It becomes a statistic, not a method of transport for somebody. Hybrids, the vehicles that the Climate Intelligence Unit think are just petrol and are not an electric vehicle. They're a petrol vehicle in disguise. This matters even more now because hybrids are being used as ZEV flexibilities. ECIU, oh yeah, manufacturers are hitting the targets. They're not even hitting the targets in their mind. They're meant to be the safe compliance option, hybrids. Yet the Freedom of Information request shows hybrid SORN volumes accelerating. Average age of SORN vehicles falling every year. They're getting SORNed earlier and earlier. Early disengagement from hybrids is now systemic. That undermines the idea that flexibilities are a stable solution. They're a means to an end. They're a means to hitting the target. The core problem with the ZEV mandate, the mandate measures registrations. That's it. That's what it registers. But the real world runs on retention, usage, residual value, consumer confidence. None of those are being met with EVs and hybrid sales. I did a calculation the other day on a lease, and a hybrid lease I think was £5,750 more than the same model petrol over the term. £5,750. Bearing in mind, when I do the comparison on an EV and a petrol, I don't even usually take into account any electric. I'm assuming that you're getting your electric free from the sun. You've got solar panels, and your solar panels didn't cost you anything. Everything's free. Your charge is free. Your solar panels are free. Your electrics are free. You just have to pay the car. And an EV works out more expensive to run than a petrol when you take into account paying for petrol. That's how stupid all these claims are. Right, hybrid. So you can run on electric. So we forget about electric. We say that this hybrid owner has got free electric. Now here, we say the hybrid owner has got free petrol too. He's Jed Clampett. What was it? He went out searching for food, fired at something, and up from the ground came a bubbling crude.
And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up to the ground come a bubbling crude.
Beverly Hillbillies. Say, for instance, you were shooting for food in your back garden. You fired, you hit an oil well. You had your own petrol. You bought a hybrid. Your electric was free and your petrol was free. The hybrid worked out at £5,750, more than the petrol. Honestly, to me, it's mind-blowing how these people can still say that electrics and hybrids are cheaper to run. If vehicles are registered to hit targets and then removed from the road shortly afterwards, the mandate may be technically complied with, but practically it's failing. Here's the uncomfortable question. If the transition is working, why are so many young EVs and hybrids being quietly taken off the road? That's not an ideological question, that's a data question. Now, listen very carefully. I shall say this only once.
Listen very carefully. I shall say this only once.
The ZEV mandate may be producing impressive registration statistics, but the DVLA's own data suggests those vehicles aren't always staying in real world use. That's not decarbonisation, that's accounting. So let me know in the comments, is the mandate changing behaviour or just changing spreadsheets? As always, please like, subscribe, hype if you're on a mobile, and share, because the numbers matter more than the slogans. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.